We're going underground.
Time to check out some more underground requests and recommendations, and we're going to get right into it with Bleedskin with Homicidal Therapy out of Belgium. Alright, so some pretty just balls to the wall death metal there. A little slammy too, in terms of what they say here, inspired by bands like Cannibal Corpse, Abnormality, that's a good one, Behemoth, Dying Fetus, and Benighted. Nice to see their name in there, and Benighted are a fellow, oh no, they're not Belgian, they're French, right? I get them all scrambled up sometimes. But anyways, liking what I'm hearing. I had to turn it down a little bit because it was so loud when I pressed play, which is my fault, not theirs, probably. I could see how maybe there might be some production issues in terms of like loudness wars, kind of like over compression and things like that. But overall, I enjoyed what I was hearing. It was super intense. It was getting me wanting to bang my head. And yeah, just overall seems like solid death metal. So moving right along, we got Legionary with Prison Realm out of New York. Let's check this out. Yeah, that was an interesting bit of a journey. They describe themselves, or it looks like it might be a solo project here, but death thrash. And I hear where that comes in, but then there's also these like really melodic kind of like uplifting, almost, I don't know, like Protest the Hero comes to mind kind of things going on too. So it's interesting. I will say that clean section felt a little bit cheesy, potentially. But again, we're just sampling like 30 seconds of each of these bands, so it's not fair to give full judgment on that. Plus, I like when people mash things together in a different way, you know, that I get so many bands in here that sound so similar, and that gets kind of dull after a while. So I like the one that kind of stands out and does something a little bit different. But yeah, I'll be curious to see how those sections hold up. I think that's the one thing that makes me wonder. I think also those clean vocals could use a little bit of just like tightening up in general in terms of the performance itself, but overall count me interested, and that's one of the most important things on a show like this. So let me go on to Chadhel with Split with Jack. Okay, just some raunchy grindcore out of Quebec. It wasn't listed up here, that's why I didn't say it before, but I found it down in the bio here. I like this album artwork, and I think it's fitting to the chaotic style of the music. Another one I'd be interested to listen to a little bit more. That track in particular felt a little bit kind of repetitive, which I mean is grindcore, but I'm pretty picky about my grindcore, I'd say. There's only, like, I could probably count on two hands the number of like grindcore bands I regularly listen to and enjoy. But yeah, I mean, what feedback do you give to grindcore? It's like supposed to be ugly and raunchy and nasty, and it was definitely that. So what else do you want to say? This is mainly just getting you all interested in checking out some new stuff. Next up, we've got Release the River with Virtues of the Vile out of the Netherlands. Ooh. I'm glad we got that blech in at the end. I'm such a sucker for that all the time. But yeah, some pretty cool black and death metal going on there. Nice mix. I like that chuggier, more kind of death metal-y, even arguably kind of like deathcore sounding part towards the end there, but also just a lot of those like really classic sounding black metal guitars. Lots of awesome atmosphere. Thinking of things like Marduk too. Yeah, sounds perfect for the genre. You're nailing the target you're going for. The production's really solid too. I like this slight bit of reverb on the vocals too. Just give it that extra kind of pushed for that grim, ugly sound. And yeah, excuse me. Would I be interested in listening to more of this? Absolutely. So be sure to check them out. Next up we have Notturno with Hour off of Hypnotic Dirge Records. So I don't have a location necessarily. Okay, another one that kind of takes you on a bit of a dynamic journey there, starting with those kind of like rock, like black and rock. It's like the sound I give for those types of guitars, going into that more like ambient section. And then I don't know if I just happened to skip past some of the vocal sections, but being really sparing. This is a 8+ minute track, and I only just happened to stumble upon the vocals towards the end there. And yeah, getting that more kind of like raspy blackened quality to that too. Seems intriguing. I'm always skeptical about these longer track lengths for bands like this. Again, if you're not like a progressive band, I'm good. I'm usually extra picky. Even progressive bands too. They can mess that up. But I mean, I'm interested. I don't know. I don't know about like feedback wise. The production also felt like it could be mixed a little bit more smoothly, but overall, yeah, I don't know. I'm intrigued to hear more of this and see if there are other kind of genre mixings that happen in here as well. But for the sake of time, we got to continue to BalashToth with Equation out of Ireland. Okay, another kind of Black and Death sounding vibe on this one. Was loving those drums. Like, those drums definitely were a highlight for those couple of seconds there. And vocals sounded interesting, too. It was a little bit different style of performance, which I'm always open to, because, again, there's just so many bands and albums that sound so similar within the death and black metal genres that I always get behind. Sometimes it's a hit, sometimes it's a miss, but I champion people trying different things when it comes to the vocals. Production was decent. I wouldn't say it was like amazing. I think the mix and getting some of the levels just right could use some more balancing, but overall, another one that sounds interesting. I liked the atmosphere. I like this kind of lava themed album cover too. But we got Hemus with Nephilim out of New Mexico. So it seems like a trend that we're usually getting like at least one ambient or like drone band on the list each time, I feel like. And fitting to the title and this artwork, there's just this very foreboding, ominous sound to it, where there's this approaching entity of some kind is coming to take you. And the production's really solid. Definitely recommend, if you're going to check this out, listen to it with headphones, because it really was like seeping into my brain and kind of surrounding me in so many ways. Hard to give feedback much on this type of ambient because it's just so minimalist, but as far as like, does it evoke emotion? Does it give me a sense of something? Does it sound good? Yes, all of those things. So if you're into ambient kind of stuff, and for those who congregate in darkness, as they put in the bio, this could be up your alley. Then we got The Rope with Nightbird out of Minneapolis, Minnesota, and this is going to be another kind of left turn for today. Yeah, good old-fashioned, very 80s sounding, like post-punk and goth rock styles there. I think this will be a great accompaniment to the new like Poltergeist album, which I've listened to a bit and enjoyed. This is not a style of music I listen to a ton, but I always tend to enjoy it. It's the type of thing where if it comes on the radio, I never switch the channel either. Like I enjoy it in small doses, and I'm always impressed with a band that's able to just nail that sound. And like you listen to this and I feel like I'm in the 80s. Like I feel like I'm listening to something from the 80s, and it transports me back to that time, even though I was very, very young in the 80s. But it just gives that energy. And I honestly wish more bands would kind of figure that particular sound out. Same with like 70s stuff too, where there's just like a very particular quality, and it's so neat when you get to hear it. So yeah, really kind of a highlight here, honestly, even though this isn't metal per se. Again, I think it goes right along with some other stuff coming out this year, like Poltergeist, like the new Tribulation album, which I'm absolutely loving. And so, yeah, definitely check out The Rope as well. All right, wardrobe change, because it is a new day and we had a few more recommendations come through. So let's get into those. We have For the Storms with Losing What's Left of Us from Brescia, Italy. Pretty good mix of doom and sludge here with some post-metal as well. I'd say leaning more into the post-metal and sludge, but getting my head bobbing. That's like the most important thing with stuff like this. This is also the style of kind of post-metal and sludge that I tend to swing towards. I always say it has more of like a seafaring vibe. That sound, for some reason, that aesthetic just works for me better than I don't know, like your more kind of traditional doom flair. So yeah, this sounds up my alley too, and I'd be interested to check out more. We got some songs on the longer side here, which can be an iffy proposition, but I was hearing some pretty good dynamics, and the production sounds excellent. So, yeah, props to that one. Check out For the Storms. We also have Harsh Realm with Death Carries On. They're out of North Carolina. Nice groove at the end there. We got some pretty old school death metal sounding stuff here again. Seeing what's in the tags here. We just got death metal in the tags, and I think that kind of covers it. Again, I think production pretty strong. We got a pretty good low end going there. A pretty full sound. I like this live photo too. It feels like that's the vibe I would expect from this sound. I was enjoying the guitar work. Definitely more of an emphasis on groove and just kind of big chuggy riffs, a little bit doomy in there, but not like straight up death doom, I would say. And I liked the guitar tone as well, with the distortion all around. Solid pick on this one as well. We have Floscule with I, and I forget the I with the umlaut. I should remember this from German, what the I with the umlaut sound is supposed to be, but I do not remember. But this is out of Ukraine, so let's check them out. Mixing a bunch of influences there, like kind of some traditional raw black metal, especially in the vocals, but also getting some post metal in there. Also getting like a touch of hardcore. I love the sound of the drums. Like they're so punchy in this kind of raw mix, and that pace change was fantastic. Switching from just the kind of more pounding, deliberate, slower style to the D beats, and but we were getting some cleaner vocals kind of as we were getting into that end part there as well. But just very kind of like miserable, fitting to this cover art too. Just this kind of like mourning the destruction and maybe some like war themes in there potentially as well. I'm digging it. This is another good example of how to effectively use a kind of lower grade, lower quality production sound to great effect. Just hearing a little bit of little touch of death metal in there as well. Lots going on there. And yeah, count me interested. Next up we have Eternal with Cryptic Lust, and with this font I have a good feeling we're going for some more kind of old school death metal sound, but they are out of their label, Carbonized Records, is out of San Jose. Not sure if they are too. Yep. Yep, I was right. Sometimes you can just call them. And that always tells me, too. It's like the band's in on it. They know what they're making, and that's what they're going for. And I think they're nailing it. I like the reverb on the production, too, going for that more kind of 80s, early 90s sound. Love the cover art. It really fitting to that title, too. This is one these are a couple very horny zombies here. I have a feeling, and again, suited to the music. I think full package here. Hard always to tell from just 30 or so seconds, but the songwriting felt a little bit just kind of like, typical stuff, but that's not always a bad thing too. And I can't really make a full judgment call without listening to more. So I hope that you all will. Moving along, we have Streets to Ourselves with The Truth Between Us out of Toronto, Ontario.
I've got to see her. I don't know where I ever found the nerve. There one like her. She makes my knees weak. She's so far out of my... Never thought that I would feel...
Okay, every now and then they sneak in a very non-metal recommendation, and this is definitely a case of that. But I will say, I know some of you out there are groaning, because this is a very hard left turn from that old school death metal. But this was the other type of stuff I loved to listen to in high school and still enjoy now. I love me some pop punk. This is probably the closest to Blink-182 I've heard a band that's not Blink-182 sound. And given that Blink-182 barely sounds like Blink-182 anymore, I welcome it. If we had a return to this too, like on the radio, as big as it was back then, I would very much welcome it over most of the shit that's on the radio now. Like 10,000%. Loving the quality, loving the bright guitars. Sometimes I need a break from the metal and the dreary stuff too. Like even just recently, I was kind of going back to some easycore and some other stuff because I was feeling a little bit burned out on some of the metal. You need a what's it called when a palate cleanser now and then, and I think this was the perfect one. So I hope some of you will go check this stuff out too, because I like other genres besides all these metal subgenres we collect here. So good work on that. We got Friends from the Moon with The End out of Mumbai, India. You know, I'm really digging that too. Another one that's less on the metal side, but I'd still argue that this is like progressive metal, more in that kind of Dream Theater-esque spirits. I really like. Also, you know, BT Bam, definitely some Between the Buried and Me vibes with that kind of like electronic, very electronic guitar sound. Digging the vocals too. I get a lot of stuff like this where the vocals frankly don't sound very good, but they're really strong. I was getting into them. They were even kind of like pulling at my heartstrings a little bit in just the brief moments. I liked the building of the music. Yeah, this definitely got me. It got me. I'm intrigued and would be interested to hear more. And this is just a one-man project, and yeah, send me more stuff as it comes through, my dude, because this seems pretty cool. And then we have Bog Wizard, a multi-time band that I believe we've covered on this segment quite a few times at this point. But yeah, this is our latest one with Journey Through the Dying Lands, and they are a band out of Michigan. My old Midwesterners, shout out. Let's check it out. Yeah, once more catching those swampy vibes. I mean, they are fitting to their name, I would say. Mix of doom, sludge, and stoner metal, leaning on that stoner stuff. They also put in their bio that they like this satanic panic era and also heavy fantasy. So getting a nice variety there. I will say the production, I think, could be more leaning into that boggy sound. I think it needs a little bit more of a low end. Feels a little thin to me, which I think bog, I think thick muck, right? And it's just not mucky enough in the mix. But as far as like the songwriting and the performance, you're spot on. So if I'm giving one piece of feedback, that would be it. But y'all support those Midwesterners out there. I love this photo too, by the way. Always love these bands that don't take themselves overly seriously. I think that's important. Yeah, check them out. All right, and I think that is enough for today. Thank you all for being the hardcore fans out there. This is the least popular segment, but it's one of the most important, I would say. Go out there, buy these albums, support these bands with your hard-earned money, and also support this segment by joining the Patreon or becoming a channel member, because this, let's face it, this is not an ad revenue segment in terms of views goes, but you can keep it rolling by joining in those places. You can also buy some Metal Trenches merch, and yeah, just keep watching too. That's one of the most important things. Love y'all. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the trenches.